Winston stopped writing, partly because he was suffering from cramp. He did not know what had made him pour out this stream of rubbish.
All right. Hey, everybody. Welcome to Generation Y. We're going to be doing a bonus episode outside of our regular broadcasting schedule. So we got Mark here, British, and Dan, me, American. We're going to be discussing just some things we found interesting recently. And, I was in the military for the American military, United States Air Force, 7 years. So we're going to start out today by talking about some bases and around the world, what countries like Russia, UK, China, and honestly, I mean, I think we could all admit that America has probably the widest, most dominant footprint militarily, no doubt, in the entire world. There is no one with as much military presence.
Yep, it's pretty strong.
I don't know if that's a good thing, though, and that's something we should definitely talk about. So what do you have?
News? I have some news if you want it.
Some news? Sure.
Yeah. So we've had a couple of things over here that have been a bit kind of crazy. So the first thing was there's a big supermarket over here. I guess it would be similar to it's sort of like a mix between Safeways and Walmart, and it's called Sainsburys. And the first thing they did was they fired a woman who made a joke to this university student. She was the university student was working at Sainsbury's part-time. They were stacking the shelves with these new bunnies, and one of the bunnies was dark brown. And this woman said, and I think the bunny was called something like Black. Now I say it doesn't sound that great. Black Bubba or something, or Black Baba. I don't know. It was something. It wasn't that bad. It was something kind of cute,
but definitely something you can make a joke about if you're an adult.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. And so so the older lady that worked there said, maybe we shouldn't be selling these now. I mean, not if Black Lives Matter. These things are going to get in the hands of kids, and God knows what's going to happen to them. And so
colonizer.
Yeah, colonizing those bunnies. And so the young university student who's working there part-time, she was disgusted, and she stormed off to her manager and was like, I think I have PTSD. I need to go home. And the manager was like, what's up? And she was like, I can't talk about it. I have to go home. So the manager was like, okay. And then she rang her a couple of hours after she got home and said, this is what happened. It's disgusting. I'm not going to work with people like that. And so they fired the other lady.
It doesn't surprise me, sadly.
Yeah.
I don't know when, and it's like you should have respect for people, of course, but if it's a joke and there's no trying to actually be intentionally harming somebody, what world are we trying to, why are we kowtowing to children? And don't mistake this as saying this person didn't have the right to feel a certain way, but it's going, as a person, when you're growing up, it's like when you have to share your toys as a kid, it's like the worst thing that's ever happened to you. You're like, why? Yeah. They're mine. And it's like you cry, you kick and stomp, your parents put you in timeout, and then they come back a half hour later and they're like, are you going to share now? Instead today it's like we kick and scream, and then they take the kid that's trying to share the one they're supposed to share the toy with, and then kick that kid out of the house. No, you can't. No, you're going to make my son upset or my daughter or whatever. Get out. And I think that's kind of what we're seeing on a big scale. It's been going on for a while, but it's people just got to stop giving a crap. Stop caring. And the media and all these people, the right-wing media will pick up on this, and it just goes, just stop caring about these kids. Stop caring what their feelings are. Stop. I try not to be too much of a rude person, especially online, because I think it's such an awful place. And I think, if you, Jim Hoft of the Extremist podcast, he started right-wing group. Nick Fuentes got banned off of Twitter. Because the ADL and the Southern Poverty Law Center did these hit pieces on him, called him white supremacist and such, which I do not agree with his views. And Jim Hoft has like 115,000 subscribers, and I'm like, I don't know how you guys don't see that this more authoritarianism, like you're just better than everybody, and you only deserve to have these platforms to be heard, is going to lead to the right electing a true fascist, like a true psycho, a guy that is not going to be good for this country, and it's going to be bad for everyone.
Yeah,
because the right wing, you're putting them in a corner. You're making them run to the fringes of their sanity, which is why I want to read the Martyr Mead piece, so we can talk about that later. But yeah, so we just need to stop kowtowing to these kids, man. That's my opinion.
Well,
Stop caring.
Also, like I think they're stopping selling that particular bunny.
Of course.
And I mean, like, what are we supposed to do? Like, what are the toy manufacturers supposed to do? Like, every time we have.
You have one asshole that made a black joke. Now you can't sell the product.
Yeah.
It's like, it's like, what?
Imagine you just spent all that time like making 500,000 black bunnies and
you know what they're gonna do?
Like,
you know what they're gonna do? They're gonna throw them in the trash, and they could give it to poor people. They could go donate it to kids in need, or like families that can't afford to have a good Easter. You know what I mean? But no, they're gonna throw away good food that could go to somebody. And that's exactly what it's like. Amazon, they got caught dumping like millions of dollars of stuff a month that were perfectly good, just throwing it away because they had insurance. They don't care. It's wild.
It's crazy. And then the second thing I had was the same store and another couple of stores actually over here, big supermarkets, are stopping all sales. I don't know whether they've done this in the States yet. Stopping all sales of CDs and DVDs and Blu-ray.
That's pretty. Yeah, I mean, I'm not shocked, but then again, it makes sense.
Yeah, it kind of does.
Everything's going digital. Like, I mean, I agree. I want physical stuff, but that just means like the big box stores aren't finding value. Do you know how many people buy CDs today? It must be a huge waste of money for them.
Yeah, I think I mean, they said at the end of the day, most people buy digital, but I just thought it was kind of amusing because as much as a lot of people might not care, the whole thing about you'll own nothing and be happy, and you suddenly start to realize that, one day people are just going to have a phone and a bed. And that'll be it.
I think that'll be a stretch, honestly, even then. But I don't know. I think it's really what they're going to have to do. Some other group is going to have to use some sort of blockchain. Like, I'm not like a super nerdy guy, but some way where it can't be taken from you, period, ever, where it's solely yours. Someone's going to find a way. They're going to improvise. They're going to, because they have to now because of places like Amazon removing videos and movies and Spotify, like all these like censorship campaigns. Someone's going to build something that's going to make it impossible to get rid of. And that's going to be coming soon. And there's already the Internet Archive, or there's like this famous thing. You can go watch movies on there. People like old VHS tapes that didn't make it to DVD and things that didn't make it from DVD to Blu-ray or whatever, and now digital. They're all on there. You can watch all sorts of cool, crazy stuff and weird stuff from back in the day that you just can't find anymore. People will innovate. People will find a way. I don't think it's anything to worry about personally. But
so for me, I would say I don't. I think it's fine. I don't care. Like if I don't have a shelf full of 20 DVDs, or I don't have to carry around CDs. That's cool. Like that's convenient. My only issue with it is that when you have movies on YouTube, like I have quite a lot of movies on YouTube, and some on Google and stuff like that, you don't really own them. Like
you own the licensing to view it. That's
exactly.
What you own. Yeah.
Exactly. So like if I don't have, for example, like with music and stuff, if I can't get Wi-Fi or mobile data or whatever, like I can't listen to it or I can't watch the movie.
Well,
I'm sure there's a way.
I'm going to tell you right now, there is some digital high seas, and you can.
I get it, but like, that's what I'm saying. If you're trying to be legit.
Well, this is the thing. If they don't allow us an opportunity to be legitimate, then you have to do other things. Like this is the issue. Like it's like North Korea during the famine. The people who stole, the people who innovated, the people who were not doing the right thing were the ones who survived.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So like, I just don't think like screw these companies, screw these people who want to censor. Someone else is going to come along and they're going to make something better. because they're so short-sighted. They're so about their advertisers, and they're so concerned about them now and controlling where this business model goes. Like, they're like, okay, we want to be able to monetize this. Someone's going to come along and just make it something better, cheaper, more available, more open, more free. And yeah, like my brother Sean brought up an amazing point last night on the podcast. Do you know how Twitter is doing the paid for? You can pay to for Twitter now. You get like the elite version, the good version of Twitter.
Yeah.
It's amazing idea, but also a lot of complications now, because people are going to be able to edit old tweets. They're going to be able to go in and start like rearranging words to make it look like they were right. They can rewrite their own history.
Can you edit tweets? Because I still haven't found out how to edit tweets.
No, that's what I'm saying. If you pay the $10 or whatever it is a month,
then you can edit.
You can edit your tweets. You can do all sorts of extra things. So think about if you're a journalist and you lied all about Trump or lied about everything, and then you can just go reframe everything, and then boom, like you look like you were right the whole time. So when history looks back at you. So this is a serious concern. There has to be, and I believe how Facebook, they do something right. And Sean brought this to my attention. When you edit a post, it says edited. So like there needs to be some way for me to verify that this person has edited this specific tweet to make me at least suspicious of it.
Yeah. And then my third piece of news was from the Houston Press. And it's not news, but I just thought it was interesting, like, to see how, not the other side, but I guess like the far left write about fairly everyday people over just their political opinion. So it's from last June, and it says, why do Trump fans keep bringing up communism? I'll just read a little bit of it. So it says, if you write a lot about the evils of American fascism, like I do, great start. You tend to get plenty of angry Trump fans in your inbox, almost as if there was a connection or something. One of the things that comes up a lot is communism for some reason. Here's a lovely local gentleman who threatened to beat me up and rape me after I reported on the band Horner, who has unsettling Nazi affiliations, playing at White Swan. So there's a link in there, and it's just some internet troll being a bit of a knob. And then it says, he's not racist. He's just very opposed to communism. And it kind of reads in a very sarcastic manner. If you're like most Americans, you don't even know any communists, let alone vote for them. It's true that as late-stage capitalism has us all employed but broke, more and more people are open to the ideas of Karl Marx. And right there, I just think it's so funny. So they start it up by basically insulting anybody that's worried about communism and ergo Marxism. They then insult people, 3 lines in, and then they tell you that there are no communists and you can't vote for communists. And then the 6th line into the article, they're now saying that, but a lot of us are quite open to the ideas of Karl Marx. And it basically just goes on and on.
Is this an opinion piece, or is this like a news piece?
I guess it's a sort of opinion piece.
Well, doesn't it legally? Is it a UK paper?
No, it's Houston Press.
So it needs to say somewhere if it's opinion. Usually at the top it'll be like opinion or something. Because it sounds like opinion.
It sounds like an opinion piece, definitely.
But do you know what the problem is? We can't tell the difference anymore. That's the real issue.
Most people don't read whether it's an opinion or a news piece anyway. Like, only if you're into politics and stuff would you actually go to the effort of finding the tiny bit where it says.
It's supposed to be pretty clear and upfront that, like, it will say like the title, then it will be like the name of the author, and it'll be like opinion. And the thing is that they've really, like, I believe it should be in a different color. Like, if it's an opinion piece, it should be in red to give you a warning or something. Like,
in my opinion, sorry, go
crazy. No, I was just saying, it's like we need a way so that people, because people don't, like, they be able to instantly identify this an opinion piece in a color coordinated way. Like green is news, and red is like, opinion or something to like signify, identify.
Yeah, that would be good. To be honest, I'm not a huge fan of having a load of opinion pieces in papers anyway, because I would say 90% of your average people, so not 90% of everyone, but just 90% of the working class, they don't really they think all newspapers are news and that what they're saying is reasonably accurate. Maybe not
I
90%, maybe
I know
50%.
I know. I mean, I think this is the problem, though. They state things are news, and it's really opinion. It's like this is what's happening with. I don't know if you know who Project Veritas is, James O'Keefe. I'm sure you're. Okay, yeah. Okay, I'm sorry. Yeah, I know you're plugged in, but James O'Keefe, and he's basically runs an investigative reporting news agency. I mean, that's the best way. Undercover. They use Tinder. They use all sorts of different things to like be able to get involved with these people. Sex always wins. Like it always breaks these guys down because they're people. It is what it is. Um, he is suing the New York Times, and for him to be able to get to the point to pass motion of discovery or no motion of dismissal, because most people it gets dismissed by the judge. But this particular article is so egregious and so filled with opinion. The judge really literally said, like, you guys are liars. That's basically what he said. He's like, you guys are manipulating, and you posted this in like within an hour of information coming out and categorically denying and calling them manipulators and liars. And it's like, you don't even have the information. So what we're seeing is, and I think Denzel Washington says it best. And I really like Denzel. I do. I think he's a very smart man in a lot of ways. I don't know his politics or anything else about him, but he does say smart things. He goes, if you don't read the news, you're uninformed. But if you read the news, you're misinformed. And he goes, the news today is not about what's right. It's who gets there first. Not about honesty. It's about who reports on it the fastest, who gets the information, who can control the narrative the quickest. And it has nothing to do about actually being a journalist, finding sources, doing your research, and spending a couple days on a story. Because if you don't get it right as it comes out, then you don't get those clicks. You don't get those hits.
Yeah.
So that's where we are, and that's because of the environmental social governance stuff, man. They're buying hits. They want Twitter guys that are activists that have hundreds of thousands of followers. Hey, we'll offer you a job at the New York Times because you get hits.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I guess it's been bad for a long time, but it's been really bad for the last 6 or 7 years.
Yeah, we're working out the kinks. That's what's happening. We're working out the kinks, like, because now I think it was 58% of people in the U.S. believe that the media is the enemy of the people. Not even that they don't trust it. They believe they're the direct enemy.
Wow.
A direct enemy. So that's both left wing, right wing, like communist, socialist, MAGA people, and like whatever. I don't want to equate the two, but you get my drift. Yeah, like everyone thinks that educators are liars. All these people are scum. Like like they hate politicians more than they hate journalists more than politicians.
Yeah, it's interesting. Over here, apparently, okay, I should just say that with the BBC, apparently, I don't know if this is true, but this has always been the rumor for the last 3 or 4 years, that like 95% of the BBC are like at least moderate left to far left.
100%. They were educated, weren't they?
Say again?
Weren't they educated people? They probably went to Oxford and Cambridge and like this. And this is what I actually had I don't know if this guy was a socialist or communist. I think we were just getting confused because I view anything Democrat or over as left wing, and then I view anybody that's like moderate, liberal, conservative to the far right, whatever. Like there's just two sides. The middle is a little bit whatever, And the guy was like, there is no institution held by the left wing. And I'm like, what? I was like, the education system. And they all those people go to Cambridge, Stanford, Harvard, whatever. Like they're all implementing they are shaping our governmental policy. They're shaping our nation.
The long march through the institutions or something, they call it. The communists call it.
Yeah. And well, I don't even think it's like, Oh, it's so weird. It's such a weird. I'm like, because he's like, oh, so a bunch of teachers are Marxists and stuff, and I didn't want to say definitively, but I believe like a large portion of them are probably left that type of
Yeah, they
left,
absolutely are.
especially in the social sciences and stuff. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
most definitely. Um, I just, I didn't really know how to. I was like, we're just talking about like, we guess we don't agree on what the terms are, but
When did he say? When did he say that to you? That there are no institutions held by the left wing?
yesterday, last
Wow.
night.
So my response to that would be institutions held by the left wing. The media, 100%.
Yeah.
The military, 100% the military is now left wing. Yeah, I would say higher level academia, definitely lower level academia. We've seen it all over the Western world. Yeah, so was that media? I would definitely say intelligence is now left wing. So places like CIA, FBI,
See,
100%. NSA, definitely. I'm not saying everyone, but I'm saying the vast majority and their output. So what they say to people and who they're trying to influence.
I don't think they're entirely left wing, and I think there's a uniparty behind the scenes, like the deep state. Like I don't think they give a crap about. They just care about power, and they'll use anybody to obtain that power and continue using that power and abusing it. It's like, was Hitler really a right wing fascist? I mean, he was nationalist. He was this and
Well,
that.
he's
I mean,
definitely a fascist.
but it's just like, well, because I called. I don't think Trump was a fascist. I don't think he was using
He
because
wasn't a fascist.
no, I mean, like by legitimate definition, but everybody will say he is. And I'm just
Yeah.
like, well, if I don't think Trump is a fascist and you do, where's the breakdown here? Like, am I using the wrong terms? Do I not understand what, like, because somebody said to me, I don't know what authoritarianism means. And I'm like, maybe I don't know the like clinical definition, the educated definition, but I'm like, I'm pretty sure it's just like someone using A, B, C, or D to uh like have moral authority over you, over your life, over your freedom of movement, freedom of belief. Like that's like how I think. Like that's what I think of when I hear authoritarianism, is where it's held centralized power and they oppress or they like, suppress everybody. They don't let them do what they want. And I'm like,
Yeah.
we definitely have a moral authoritarianism coming from the left. That's what it's all aimed, just like hardcore Catholics or Christians that used to go like, gays burn in hell, like those, like that's moral authoritarianism. That's what it is.
Mm.
Um, they believe that they're right and you are wrong at 100%. There's no nuance.
Yeah.
So yeah, and like the guy, Jim Hoft, actually just, he said, if it takes a guy getting banned from Twitter and that's like going to start fascism, then we already have the tools in place. And I was like, no crap. Yes, they are in place. If we get the one guy that is like gets a huge portion of the people, because Joe Biden can't unite anything. He can't unite his ass cheeks together. Like this guy is a failure, right? Like, and Kamala, the Democrats, they can't do it because they're not nationalized. They are too
Mm.
globalist minded. You get a guy who is climate conscious, who is religious, who is has like a really good economic policy and super nationalist. That dude's the next Hitler. That is the next guy that you got to be worried about.
Why climate conscious? Why would climate
Oh,
conscious make the next Hitler?
climate is a way to control people and on a mass scale. Like it's a really good way to get people to be conscious of their world that they're living in, so they can make a lot of excuses for to like what we're seeing today. Like in the UK, you can't buy gas or diesel cars by 2030. But if you have a smart conservative movement, they will be able to push that down, kick the can down the road farther and farther. Like they're going to be able to figure something out. But if you get a guy in there that
Yeah.
he has 80 to 100 million people, like in the United States, that are diehard cult like Hitler, and
Mm.
he's like, we are no longer driving diesel or gas cars. Shut it down. And they don't
Mm.
care how many people die. Like that is bad. That's fascism. That is crazy.
Oh yeah, I guess so. But I think it's a good thing to be, and I'm sure you do as well, to be conscious about pollution and like we did have it. Like I know a lot of people try and bring up things that have come and gone. Like people say in the 70s they thought we were having an ice age, and then blah blah blah. And I know that happened. 100% did happen. But there have been things that we've also had, like acid rain, that 100% was a real thing and was sorted by people's
Didn't
actions.
the UK have like a massive smog thing, like back in the 30s or something? Like a bunch of people died, and and like, listen, that's a macro. When we're talking about the micro, I agree. We affect things micro on a micro scale, our local environments. And do I think we're affected? Like, remember the ozone layer when we were growing up? It's disappearing. We're all gonna die. Like
Yeah,
they
it had a
create
hole
something.
in it,
They
and then we
create
sealed the hole.
right, my ass. Like we create things out of.
But we saw the hole. You could
Yeah,
see the hole.
we see it. Yeah, I don't know.
What?
No, I'm sorry. I disbelieve it. I refuse to believe that we healed the ozone. We, the people, we are the ones who healed it.
Yeah,
No, the Earth.
we stopped using CNCs.
What's CNC?
It was like a particular, I think it's an accelerant that they used in cans from like the 40s all the way through to the 80s.
Bro, you're telling me someone using their hairspray? Come on, man.
No, I don't think one person using their hairspray did that.
But what I'm saying, dude, think about it. Like seriously, think that you think the same people that have told you that this pandemic is this way, this certain way, stripping people of their right. Like, do we really? And listen, I'm not a climate change denier. I'm a climate change realist. I believe you pick up your trash, you do your thing. We should be able to dispose these things, do the nice things, clean air, clean energy, like nuclear power. Like I believe in these things. But to think for 1 second that this planet has been hit by asteroids, has been like all this stuff, like all this crazy stuff, volcanoes erupting all over the world, magma, mass carnage and death, oceans flooding. We're the cause of it? No. No way. No way. I don't buy it.
Okay, that's all right.
Personally.
I mean, sorry?
I just said personally for me, I was like, we healed the ozone layer?
I don't think it's that we healed the ozone layer from the stuff I've read, because I was always kind of 50-50 about it. I always thought like maybe it was just something to control people or make more money or whatever. But then I read I read a ton of stuff about it, and I saw some pictures about it. And for what I understand, like my dad actually was like a meteorologist by trade, not by trade, but like from university, but I'm not. But for what I read, these particular things that we were releasing in not just hairspray and deodorant and stuff, there were way more things that we use CNCs.
Yeah.
And they began to see that the ozone layer was opening up. I think it was either over the Arctic or Australia or somewhere. And they changed CNCs for a different way of doing whatever CNCs did. And then gradually over about 25 years, that hole began to heal. So I'm not saying that we did it actively, but maybe we did it passively. It's a tiny little hole.
I don't know.
But what would they have gained? What did they gain from doing that?
It's not about gain necessarily. It's about seeing how far people will go, and you can push populations. I mean, it's predictive programming. You start out with a small hole in the ozone zone, and then you can be like, look, we changed it. We did it. We are the heroes of our planet. Now you can push people further to not be able to drive gas or diesel cars, or go electric only, and to say, hey, you don't need to own a home. Just have like this company buy it for you, and you have to pay. All you have to do is pay rent. But don't worry, we'll fix everything, maintain everything. Don't worry. Like, I don't trust any organization that tells me that they are right 100%. There is no way that they are that right about anything. Because think about this. For the last basically 100, 200 years of archaeological discovery, they said human beings, there's no way they're older than 6,000, 7,000 years old. We're finding stuff 12,000 years.
Oh, it's like civilized. Yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah, like Mesopotamia and like
rather
Greece
than just hunter killers, like
hunter
gatherers.
Yeah, like before civilization. No, we have finding stuff that are 10, 12, 14,000 years old.
Is there in Göbekli Tepe? Göbekli Tepe?
Yeah, in Turkey. Bro,
that's amazing, that place. It's like a mini Egypt 10,000 years before Egypt.
We don't know shit. We can pretend all day. We know, like, there are things that are provable. We can prove that like vitamins are good for your body because you feel better when you take them. There's a natural science out there that you can just say, hey, if I dump oil into this river and or I dump radiation into this or like radioactive water waste, whatever, into this like ground, then it gets in the groundwater and then it gets into the rivers and then it gets into our water systems. It's like we have seen people die from these things. And
Right. So what's
climate
the
change is
effect
like,
of CNCs on the atmosphere?
you're the one who tell me.
Well, no, you're saying that there's no way it can happen, so I'm just asking, do you know? Because if you
No,
don't, we could just go through it.
I don't know what a CNC is, but what I'm saying is
Neither
if
do I.
somebody is saying that we healed it by stop using CNC, because
But
how do you prove there's a hole in the ozone? I'm not
I
like
think they look. Okay.
okay, go
Sorry.
ahead.
I was just
No,
gonna say,
no.
I think they look at it with a particular type of lens, you know, like an infrared or something like that, and that's how they can see it. I don't know exactly how they can see it. The only thing I would compare it to, and listen, mate, like I'm never 100% on stuff like this because I'm not a specialist in that field. I just don't fully understand it enough. Um, but what I would maybe say is, you're saying like, how could we heal it by stopping CNCs? But then you were saying that by stopping putting oil into the river, we
Uh-huh.
could help that. So I don't understand what's the difference. So if you
So
change oil to CNC and river to ozone, it's
so
exactly the same.
how do we know what was the effect of the ozone? Like, is the ozone literal? So, like, what I mean is,
Yes.
I can see physical stuff. I can see these things, and then I can have images and of the ozone. I was taught this stuff in
Yeah.
school too. I didn't know about any CNC. I know they said it was in hairspray and stuff when I was
Yeah,
in
yeah, it
school
is.
growing
It
up.
is as well. Yeah.
So I'm sure there's other types of aerosol, probably like something to do with farming.
And paint.
Probably
Yeah, yeah, and paints
what
and
everything that you could imagine. Probably because it was cheap. It was something that a lot of people could use, easy to manufacture and distribute. I get it. Okay. So it's like they say a hole is opening in the ozone. And then all of a sudden, it's this one particular thing. And the one thing that they think it is, through research, through study, is the thing that heals it because we stop using it. I would find that hard to believe. Because like
okay.
how do we get hit by asteroids and our
Yeah.
ozone layer is fine?
But that's
Like how,
not seeing it. Like I feel
you
like
know?
I sound like really arrogant, but I just mean it's I get what you're saying, I 100% do. But like getting hit by astro, it's one of those circular logic reasonings where, and I'm not saying you have circular logic, but if you we wouldn't be here if asteroids were bad enough to destroy the Earth. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm sure there's one out there that's bad enough to destroy the Earth, but we're
Mhm,
only here to question that because we've
mhm,
never been hit by something bad enough for it to destroy the Earth for long enough to put off the creation and evolution of mankind. But we were here during a time where mankind began to mess around with natural things to create
mhm,
things that had never been created before, use
mhm.
them in ways that at certain times during our lifetime, our lifespans, or the human lifespan, that we just didn't understand. Like we just had no. It's like, do you remember we used to have lead paint in the walls? People
Yeah,
used to use radioactive. I think it was boron or like radon or something
radon into
as a health
thermometers,
cure or something.
and there was
Yeah,
thermometers. Everyone in
yeah,
the factories got really sick.
yeah.
Adrian Curry, or no, whatever the famous chemist, physicist, late or whatever her name was. She
Oh,
discovered radiation.
Mary Curie,
Mary
Mary
Curie,
Curie.
yeah, something like
Yes.
that. Listen, I agree with you, and it's just the climate agenda that got started in the 60s and 70s, but even before then, Hitler was big time about climate.
I
Like
didn't
he
know
was a
that.
big, oh yeah, big time about how he believed the Jews were destructive to their environment, literally, like environmentally. And he used that as look at their factories, look at what they're building. They don't care about this. This is the kind of stuff where science has been perverted to a religion. And I am so
Yeah,
distrusting
that's
of
true.
people who like, why is Bill Nye going on TV talking to me about transgender issues
Yeah,
or he is sitting talking about global warming? Bro, listen, if it's coming from the TV, if it's coming from authoritative things, I just don't trust them as often. And it's just going, anything is possible, I guess. And I don't know, man. I can't stand the fact that we have to live in a world where I can't even go to the news and feel like, you know what, this feels pretty close to being right.
I agree.
So maybe
And
that's where I'm at. Maybe I'm wrong about this particular issue. I could be. It just seems insane.
well, the one thing that I 100% think is fact, and we've seen it from NOAA, which I believe stands for the North American Oceanic Institute. I don't know. What's NOAA? North American
Well, probably not.
Oceanic something or other. It's like it's America.
Institute. I think it's the
Something
North
like that.
American Oceanic Institute, NOAA. Yeah, that's what it is. I think.
It doesn't matter. Anyway, whoever studies oceans in America, and it's definitely NOAA, they have the buoys that fishermen use to decide whether or not an area is going to be too stormy to go in and fish. I think they've been using them all the way back to like the 80s or something, because I know that film Perfect Storm, they ignored the NOAA data. NOAA actually lied about sea levels to get more funding. So they said, I think they predicted in like 2000 that sea levels would rise by something like four centimeters by 2015, and apparently it only rose a quarter or a half of a centimeter. These are not specific facts, but just I'm giving you
yeah, I understand.
It rose by about, I think, a quarter or a third of what they predicted it would, and they lied and said that it had gone up by even more than they predicted. And for like 2 years, this was during the bit where like Prince Charles was like, the world's going to end in 15 years and things like that.
Like Alexander AOC is saying here, we got 12
They did
years.
it a few years later, yeah.
That's my main point.
But
I just don't believe it. I don't think about it, man. Al Gore put out this documentary saying the world. No, like, dude, it's about money. It's about power. It's about control. And this is why, no offense to you or your father or anything you've read, I don't freaking buy it. I don't buy anything from these people, because if it doesn't directly affect me here and right now, I have no way of knowing, because I can't trust these bastards. I can't trust them.
I definitely appreciate where you're coming from, but just personally, I could never like completely whitewash an entire subject, and there definitely is a huge, vast number of people that are overblowing a lot of this stuff. I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous. Like the world's
It's being
going
used
by
by
2028.
once the political machine attaches itself to something, it's destroyed.
Right,
it destroys all
personally,
relevance.
I agree, but I personally, in my own mind, I can't just completely say I no longer believe anything at all about this stuff, because the majority of it has been politicized. I definitely agree it has, but I still have to think that some things can still be right and some things can't. I don't think
Fair
there
enough.
is zero problems with the environment.
But that's why I'm talking about the difference between micro and macro, like effects. I'm talking micro. Yes, I agree with you. But the macro stuff, the planet doesn't even probably think that we exist. It doesn't care. If it was a sentient being, it would be like these little ants on my back, like whatever. And every now and then they sting me or something. Like it's just, we're just such a small part of this world. Like the amount of life on this planet, like it's absurd. And we make up such a small fraction of that life and that effect. Yes, we may be interacting and affecting a lot of things. Absolutely agree. We could agree that humans have an effect on the climate. I believe that. I just don't believe to the degree. My main thing is there is the educators. These institutions are liars. They're manipulators. They do not search for truth. Because the people that are out there actually doing the work are the ones on the fringes. The people that are called crazies. What are you going to go fly a plane? What's a plane? What the hell is that? The heck is that? What do you mean you're going to go glide through the air like a bird, you freaking moron? You know, like the people on the fringes, the ones they call the crazies, the cuckoos, the nuts, are the blasphemers and the ones that need to be executed. Like when the heliocentric theory was proposed, and he was literally killed by the Catholic Church because they said the Earth was the center of our solar system, our universe, and everything revolved around us. It is bull crap. I don't care what these people have to say anymore. I don't care. If I want to engage and listen and think and critically think, I'm just not going to take it on faith anymore. Just because your degree says I'm a fucking smart guy, I don't care anymore. Like, I just don't care. Like, to me, that's not good enough. Take me, show me.
Yeah.
Actually do science. Don't show me some shit on a screen. Like, let's go figure this out. But I think and this is another problem. I'm an example of somebody. I hope to God that I stay wary enough that I don't elect the next Hitler, because I legitimately do not trust these people anymore. I don't trust them. I don't trust my government. I don't trust my media. I don't trust educators. I don't trust anything when it comes to that.
That is such a very interesting point, because your immediate reaction when somebody says, I hope I don't elect the next Hitler, is to say, well, you won't, or, well, I won't. And you hope you don't. But then, like, if you think, it's like the boiling frogs, isn't it? I feel like if you're in a society that's slowly losing its mind, and somebody comes along and you don't know 100% how bad he could be, but he says, I'm not as crazy as these people that are ruining the world that you live in. Elect me. And your only other choice is more insanity, then you probably could.
No, it's self-preservation. If the institution, like, you look at Germany and the rise of Hitler, and he gets put in jail, and they were putting out propaganda of Hitler saying he's been reformed, he's no longer a zealot, he's no longer radical, and the system works.
Yeah.
They said that about Adolf Hitler. And then what did he do? He formed brown shirts. He got his group together, and they did some awful things. We know the rest. There's a lot of history there, but dude.
Yep.
We can't just believe somebody because they're in a position of authority. We need to question. We need to deny them. I need to deny people and say, no way, man. I'm going to believe just because a group of people tell me something. It's like, we need to stop listening, because the thing is, if like someone like a right fascist, like nationalist, and then why I think climate is always really important for a nationalist fascist movement to take place. It really strengthens the community together. The Democrats are just so good at politics, because the Democrats are amazing at politics. They can never become truly fascistic. Now they can become authoritarian and kill you, but fascism is believing there is an enemy, a true enemy, and that they will do nothing to stop it. They will go after everything, like how the communists, were they not fascist? But were they not fascist?
It's a very interesting point. I think it's like with Antifa. They say that they're not fascist. I think probably by the second or third time that I had seen Antifa doing what they do, my mind was just like fascist, hold on, just 1 second. Let me just. That's cool. They're they're a group of political minded people that are using violence and intimidation, to sort of get their way in politics, or to try and convert people to their way of thinking, or just like as a backlash towards normal politics. And I just think it's a very fascist way of going about it. And I know that fascist doesn't just mean that, but it's a huge part of it. And recently we've seen people use the term left-wing fascism.
Well, this is my problem. Okay, so I look up fascism, meaning, definition. Often capitalized, right there, a political philosophical movement or regime, such as that of the fascista, that exalts nation and often race above the individual, and that stands for a centralized autocratic government headed by a dictatorial leader, severe economic and social regimentation, and foreseeable suppression of opposition. Now listen to me. They are identitarians. They do not like the individual, okay? And it's always about race with these people, and oppressor versus oppressed classes, and like this weird like perversion of what the individual is supposed to be. And severe and economic social regimentation, that is what the Fed is. So this is something that I think we need to recognize. And this is why I don't believe in left or right wing. We need to elect real radicals who are willing to destroy parts of our system. And what I mean is end the Fed. Get rid of the Federal Reserve. It's a privatized bank working in conjunction with other privatized banks to monopolize the market, the world.
What would be the effect of that?
Well, we've already done it
Genuine
before.
question.
No, we've done it before. This is the third private bank in our country. There was 2 other times, and it failed both times.
Yeah. So
It
tell me
failed
about
it.
those times. What was the debt rate
It was
and stuff like that?
Oh my God, I have no idea what the debt rate was. I just know there were severe economic collapses, considerable, comparable to the Great Depression, right?
Okay.
So you have the Great Depression, and then about 30 years later, you had the gas crisis. I'm sure there was another type of crisis. Before that, we had the gas crisis, economic shortages that increased the Federal Reserve interest rate to 30% for like 5 to 10 years or something. That kind of brought us out of that. 1987. We had another.
We had the 91 massive worldwide collapse.
Well, there was 87, then a few years later, 91, and then you had, but guess what? September 10th, 2011, $2.3 trillion are missing. They don't know where it went. That's the Secretary of Defense.
What was that guy's name?
Donald Rumsfeld. He just died, the evil bastard.
Did he?
And, yeah, he just died. That's why this is kind of being brought back up in mainstream culture. He's a monster. He is legit. Our foreign policy for like 40 years was basically designed around him. And then you had, the war saved us from another serious financial collapse, but they didn't see the market bubble coming. The market, the housing market bubble in 2008 exploded in our face. The $1 trillion bailout. And the American people covered the tax dollars. Everyone got big bonuses. No one went to jail. They literally broke the law. Ridiculous. Okay, now we're looking now. And I do believe partly this economic collapse is being artificially created in some ways. Like, why would you know when the main population is pretty much safe from a particular virus? Why would you shut down small businesses? We're probably less likely to gather in small. You know what I mean? Like, you go to Walmart, you go to the big stores, like, there's a lot of people there. But if you can go to your local convenience store, why would they shut that thing down? Like, that's not a big deal. Point. Like, why are they attacking small business? Because now what they can do is they're using the Federal Reserve is so insane. It is so absurd how they do this. Banks go to the Federal Reserve and they buy debt bonds. Debt bonds is basically a loan. They can buy a loan. They get a loan from the Federal Reserve at like 0% interest rate. 0%. They can take that loan. This is not just banks. It could be corporations too. Let's just use a corporation because I think a bank is a little more confusing. But a corporation like Amazon can go there and say, we want a $100 million loan. The Federal Reserve will give them that loan at a very low, near zero interest rate. Right? Then they go take. This is true. They take that $100 billion and they buy a bunch of stock for themselves. They inflate the cost of their in the stock market, right? And guess what? We just paid as the American tax dollars on no interest loan to these corporations to just inflate their own stock. So what Trump did, which was in the financial sector, absolute evil on them. They couldn't believe that he did this. So when he did those big tax cuts, right? He made a part of the plan and part of the law was that you cannot take that money and then reinvest it and buy in the stock market. You cannot do that. So they couldn't continue inflating the stock market. He wanted to do it in a natural way where people look at your companies, they can invest, and then investors come. That's like the way the stock market is supposed to be. We're going to buy your stock. We think it's going to keep going up, and it does.
Is the Fed part of the U.S. government, real quick, for those that don't know?
No. Not at all. Not even in the slightest. Not regulated or controlled by the U.S. government technically. We have no oversight. It is I don't know how many. I think it's anywhere from 10 to 20 or 10 to 15 big bankers like presidents of J.P. Morgan, Chase, all of these big banks, Bank of America, the ex-CEOs, ex-financial guys, ex-Wall Street guys. And then they go over there and they are privately elected on their own. So the board just votes the new guy in. Yeah. Whenever somebody leaves.
Like a circle pleasure.
Yes, a circle pleasure factory where they continue to proliferate and pillage and rape the American people and the global people.
Oh, everyone. Yeah, 100%. 100% they do. So where does the money come from when they print the money?
Oh, U.S.
Where
Treasury.
Does it come from?
So the Federal Reserve makes an action to the U.S. Treasury which is basically unlimited money because it's not backed by anything really. So they just go, okay, U.S. Treasury goes to the Federal Reserve. The U.S. Treasury will go to the Federal Reserve. They negotiate interest rates, they negotiate and talk, and then all of a sudden the Federal Reserve will say, okay, we are allowing you. They get to allow and control the U.S. Treasury and say, we're allowing you to print this much money at this particular, and then you owe us. The government owes the Federal Reserve money. It's it's basically a 10% interest rate. So every time we spend $1, we owe them $1.10 back, 100 million, 100 million, $10 million, so on and so forth. And we're talking about trillions and trillions and trillions of dollars.
Yeah.
$30 trillion in debt. So we have 33 trillion, but then it just keeps expounding. It never ends. It just never ends. And so what we're doing is like, we're talking about a system that is specifically built to fail and hurt us small people so that the corporations and the banks can make more money.
Yeah. Do you think that there have to be some, I know there are some left-wing populists out there that also despise the Fed, but I'd be interested in
all of them. Everybody on that are on the fringes of politics hate the Federal Reserve, and they hate the federal government, and they hate the authoritarianism that is coming. Because like if we look at 2003, that was a fascist, if we want to go by the quote unquote like Google and stuff is like right wing, like they brought in the surveillance state. They brought it to what it is today. It was a right wing president. That's why I just go, no way, no how. Rob Parker, he always talks about Tom Brady that way. But anyway, no way, no how did there is a left or right wing. There is a uniparty, and it is the uniparty of greed, power, and making money. If there's one thing about Donald Trump, he was consistent for 30, 40 years about his economic policies. And when he thought, China's screwing us, but they wanted China to grow, because if China's market grows and we owe China money, they are going to continue to buy our debt bonds. That was what NAFTA was about. That's what all this stuff. It's just, I'm not an expert by any means, but it's crazy, dude.
That's insane.
That's just like,
say that last bit again about China and the debt growing.
Yeah, well, so what we do is, so China buys our debt bonds from us, which basically allows our economy to keep growing technically. But all they have to do is recall those bonds. So basically they're buying our debt from us, and then we're just getting more in debt to them. So, but that's allowing them to grow bigger and bigger and bigger.
Yeah, it is. I'll just say one thing about that. 100% right. I do remember reading, though, one of the scariest things is China has a crap load of bought bonds from the Fed. So they essentially
unmatched trillions of dollars.
Yeah. And which is terrifying. But what's more terrifying is that 90% of the bonds created by the Fed are actually just being paid off by. It's just from America. That's not from China's. Only like 9%. Yeah, exactly. Americans and their allies, to a lesser degree, but 100% a degree. Any country that buys energy that is an American ally has to use the US dollar. Therefore, you're helping pay off the American debt, as well as paying off your own country's debt.
It's a Ponzi scheme. It's like a pyramid scheme, and we're not in on it. So like, and so I guess like, because I don't know how long we're going to go today. I would think this is a kind of a good time. This doesn't necessarily correlate just to Republicans or conservatives or left or right. I think I want to read this Twitter thread. It was on Tucker Carlson. He read a little bit of it. I'm going to tell you right now, if you're a logical, critical thinker, what this guy says is undeniably true. Undeniably true. And the left wing, the socialists, the communists, more like anarchists, anarcho-capitalists, whatever, they're all leaning like, because they can't find any of these tweets where he says he's a white supremacist or ethno-nationalist. They can't find them all of a sudden, whatever that means. And that but Reddit has been discussing about this guy for a while. And I'm just like, guys, if he is, doesn't mean he's wrong. You can still be a piece of crap and be right sometimes. So I'm not going to speak about his character, who he is, but I can say that this man is framing this, which it could be framing, and I have a little bit of bias, and you may too, but let's see what you think. So his name is at Martyr Mead, Martyr as an Martyr, Made, common spelling. So all one word. And this is on Twitter. So he's like, I think I've had discussions with enough boomer tier Trump supporters who believe the 2020 election was fraudulent to extract a general theory about their perspective. It is also the perspective of most of the people at the Capitol on 1/6 and probably even Trump himself. So if you ever just want me to stop, or if there's a point you want to make, just pop your hand up and I'll stop. You know what I mean? Or just like, give me some sort of symbol or sign.
Okay.
Okay. Most believe some or all of the theories involving midnight ballots, voting machines, etc. But what you find when you talk to them is that while they'll defend those positions with info they get from Hannity or Breitbart or whoever or whatever, they're not particularly attached to them. Here are the facts, actual confirmed facts that shape their perspective. 1, the FBI, etc., spied on the 2016 Trump campaign using evidence manufactured by the Clinton campaign. We know that all involved knew it was fake from day one, i.e., see Brennan's July 2016 memo, etc. These are Tea Party people, the types who give their kids pocket constitutions for their birthday and have founding fathers memes in their bios. The intel community spying on a presidential campaign using fake evidence, including forged documents, is a big deal to them. Everyone involved, lied about their involvement as long as they could. We only learned about the DNC paying for the manufactured evidence because of a court order. Comey denied on TV, knowing the DNC paid for it, when we have emails from a year earlier proving that he knew. This was true with everyone from CIA Director Brennan and Adam Schiff, who were on TV saying they'd seen clear evidence of collusion with Russia while admitting under oath behind closed doors that they hadn't, all the way down the line. In the end, we knew and learned that it was all fake. At first, many Trump people were worried there must be some collusion because every media and intel agency wouldn't make it up out of nothing. When it was clear that they made it up, people expected a reckoning and shed many illusions about their government when it didn't happen. We knew, as fact, A, the Steele dossier was the sole evidence used to justify spying on the Trump campaign. B, the FBI knew the Steele dossier was a DNC op. C, Steele's dossier told the FBI the info was unserious. D, they did not inform the court of any of this and kept spying. Trump supporters know the collusion case front and back. They went from worrying the collusion must be real to suspecting it might be fake to realizing it was a scam. Then watched as every institution, agencies, the press, Congress, academia gaslit them for another year. Worse, collusion was used to scare people away from working in the administration. They knew their entire lives would be investigated. Many quit because they were being bankrupted by legal fees. The DOJ, press, and government destroyed lives and actively subverted an elected administration. This is where people whose political identity was largely defined by a naive belief that they learned in civics class began to see the outline of a regime that crossed all the institutional boundaries because it had stepped out of the shadows to unite against an interloper. Is this interesting to you? Do you want me to still go?
Keep going.
Okay. I don't want you to be bored.
No, I'm listening.
Yeah. GOP propaganda still has many of them thinking in terms of partisan binaries. But a lot of Trump supporters see that the regime is not partisan. They all know that the same institutions would have taken opposite sides if it was Tulsi Gabbard versus Jeb Bush election. It's hard to describe to people on the left who are used to thinking of government as a conspiracy, Watergate, COINTELPRO, WMDs, etc. How shocking and disillusioning this was for people who encourage their sons to enlist in the army and hate people who don't stand for the anthem. They could have managed the shock if it was only involved the government, but the behavior of the corporate press is really what radicalized them. They hate journalists more than they hate any politician or government official because they feel most betrayed by them. The idea that the press is driven by ratings, sensationalism, became untenable. If that were true, they'd be all over the Epstein story. The corporate press is the propaganda arm of the regime. They now see an outline. Nothing anyone says will ever make them unsee that, period. This is profoundly disorienting. Many of them don't know for certain whether ballots were faked in November 2020, but they know for absolute certain that the press, the FBI, etc., would lie to them if there was. They have every reason to believe that, and it's probably true. They watched the press behave like animals for 4 years. Tens of millions of people will always see Kavanaugh as a gang rapist based on nothing because of CNN. And CNN seems proud of that. They led a lynch mob against a high school kid. They cheered on Summer of Riots. They always claimed the media had liberal bias. Fine, whatever. They still thought the press would admit truth if they were cornered. Now they don't. It's a different thing to watch them invent stories whole cloth in order to destroy regular lives and spark mass violence. Time magazine told us that during the 2020 riots, there were weekly conference calls involving, among others, leaders of the protests, the local officials who refused to stop them, the media people who framed them for political effect. In Ukraine, we call that a color revolution. Throughout the summer, Democrat governors took advantage of COVID to change voting procedures. It wasn't just the mail-ins, they lowered signature matching standards, etc. After the collusion scam, the fake impeachment, Trump people expected shenanigans by now. Fake impeachment. We know that Trump's request for Ukraine to cooperate with the DOJ regarding Biden's and activities in Ukraine was in support of an active investigation being pursued by the FBI and Ukraine Attorney General at the time. And so a completely legitimate and legal request. Then you get the Hunter laptop scandal. Big tech ran a full-on censorship campaign against a major newspaper to protect a political candidate, period. Everyone knows it. All of the tech companies now admit it was a quote-unquote mistake. But you know, the election's over, so who cares? Goes without saying, if the New York Times had Don Jr.'s laptop, full pics of him smoking crack, engaging in group sex, lots of lurid family drama, emails describing direct corruption, and backed up the CEO of the company they were using, the New York Times wouldn't have been banned. They think back, stories about Trump being pissed on by Russian prostitutes and blackmailed by Putin were promoted as fact. And the only evidence was a document paid for by his opposition and disavowed by its own source. The New York Post was banned for reporting untrue information. The reaction of Trump people to all this was, hey, no fair. That's how they felt about Romney's binders of women in 2012, which I'm obviously not familiar with that story. Just side note, I'm not sure what that is, but I'm guessing this guy seems pretty accurate so far. So maybe I could look into that. Now they see correctly that every institution is captured by people who will use any means to exclude them from the political process. And yet they showed up in record numbers to vote. He got 13 million more votes than in 2016, 10 million more than Clinton got. As election night dragged on, they allowed themselves some hope. But when the 4 critical swing states, and only those states, went dark at midnight, they knew. Over the ensuing weeks, they got shuffled around by grifters and media scam artists selling them conspiracy theories. And they latched onto one another. Then another and another increasingly absurd theory as they tried to put a concrete name on something very real. Media and tech did everything to make things worse. Everything about the election was strange. The changes to procedure, unprecedented mail-in voting, the delays, etc. But rather than admit that and make everything transparent, they banned discussion of it, even in direct messages. Everyone knows that as Don Jr.'s laptop would have been the story of the century if everything about the election dispute was the same except the parties were reversed. Suspicions about the outcome would have been taken very seriously. See 2016 for proof. Even the court's refusal of the case gets nowhere with them because of how the opposition embraced mass political violence. They'll say with good reason, what judge will stick his neck out for Trump knowing he'll be destroyed in the media as a violent mob burns down his house? It's a fact. According to Time magazine, the mass riots were planned in cities across the country if Trump won. Sure, they were protests, but they were planned by some of the same people as during the summer, and everyone knows what it would have meant. Judge have families too. Forget the ballot conspiracies. It's a fact that governor used COVID to unconstitutionally alter election procedures. The Constitution states that only legislatures can do so to help Biden to make up for a massive enthusiasm gap by gaming the mail-in ballot system. They knew it was unconstitutional. It's right there in plain English, but they knew the cases wouldn't see court until after the election. And what judge will toss out millions of ballots because a governor broke the rules? The threat of mass riots wasn't implied. It was direct. A, the entrenched bureaucracy and security state subverted Trump from day one. B, the press is part of the operation. C, election rules were changed. D, big tech censors opposition. E, political violence is legitimized and encouraged. F, Trump is banned from social media. They were led down some rabbit holes, but they are absolutely right that their government is monopolized by a regime that believes they are beneath the representation and will observe no limits to keep them getting it. Trump fans should be happy he lost. It might have kept him alive.
That's terrifying, man.
But that guy, I don't think I've ever heard anyone so articulate just so well the sequence of events that led to people like these people aren't crazy. These people legitimately, they have a real good reason to feel the way that they do.
Yeah, absolutely. I love where he said, if it had been Jeb Bush, if it had been Tulsi Gabbard versus Jeb Bush, it would be the left that was feeling this way. And like 100% would be. I kind of wonder how people on the right would feel if that would be the case. Probably very similarly, because in the same way that they really don't give a crap about Biden, like most normal lefties don't really particularly like Biden. I think probably most right wingers would not particularly like Jeb Bush. But I don't know whether people would admit to it if it was the other way around or not.
Well, I think what he was saying is, so like if there was no Trump never happened, like this election stuff would have never even been, I mean, they would have never done this. This is the uniparty. They pick the candidate they want. They manipulate the people because most people were just whatever. You got a few people who are kind of, into it really hard. Like maybe 30% of people were hardcore into politics. Now in the modern times, you're looking at probably somewhere past 75% of people are like really involved in politics.
That's good.
Because their cities are being burned down. Their lives have been altered and changed. And I think COVID, in part, was exacerbated. And not that it wasn't an issue, not that we probably, I think everyone agreed. There was a real unity for the first week or two. But once we saw things not be like it was this cataclysmic ending of a nation, ending like this is going to be like, as bad as they saw it, 5%, of people. Then you saw the politics come right back out of the gate. Everyone started crushing each other. Everyone started trying to manipulate. Lori Lightfoot, cities are being burned to the ground. They won't let the national. Trump was, I guess, this close to calling the National Guard full insurrection act, which basically means active duty military going into these cities and crushing the opposition. It was that, and the question is, should he have?
Well, yeah.
It is a good question. I'm been really hesitant of the federal government, but and this is the issue that we have, because the federal government restricts us so much in so many different ways that another state couldn't send their National Guard in to help.
And look at what happened with Kyle Rittenhouse as well. I'm not trying to bring everything up at once, but if you could deal with people like this on your own, and that dude, man, he was trying to be as good of a dude as you could possibly freaking be, putting out fires, offering first aid to Antifa and BLM, and then he gets shot at by not a particularly nice person. And and defends himself, and he's looking at, well, he's already been in jail, and he's looking at more jail time.
Well, I think the Rittenhouse situation is the clearest sign of self-defense I've ever seen. I don't think there's never. I think they had his ex-lawyer on Timcast last night, and he was right. He's like, dude, we have from every angle you could imagine this situation. This is not just one body cam. Everybody was filming. Everybody knew something crazy. When the kids started getting chased, everyone pulled their phones out. He's like, I think they said they have something like, or maybe I read this, but it was something like from just because of that, the few seconds from when their shot happened and to the few seconds of when, like, he shot those next two guys. I mean, it was absolutely like, I think he said it was like an hour and a half, an hour of like total video just from those moments, because there's so many people filming. Wow. I support Kyle Rittenhouse. I think Kyle Rittenhouse did the right thing. I absolutely do. I think what he did, most adults couldn't do. The poise he had under pressure to only accurately engage with the targets that are trying to hurt you, and not to start spraying and praying and have a freak out moment, and you just start shooting at random people. Like, you really saw poise.
He cleared a blockage as well, didn't he?
Did he? It's possible for sure.
He did. He 100%. He cleared, like, he got a blockage or a stoppage, whatever you guys call it over there. And he had to clear that. And one thing I didn't know, which the lawyer said, was that he actually was struck by a skateboard. I thought he nearly got hit by a skateboard, but he was proper, like, and skateboards are, like, when you've got full trucks and wheels, those things, you'll easily break windows, you can dent,
Take off the wheels, man. It's a piece of wood. If I take a piece of wood and I swing it as hard as I can at you, it's gonna suck. Like, you could definitely hurt somebody.
Absolutely.
But you literally have seen dude, like, this sounds conspiratorial and stuff, but like George Soros has been investing in shit tons of money into like these district attorneys. They wield unimaginable power for their positions. That's why they're elected officials. It's insane how much control they have over the process. They can literally choose to charge or not charge.
Yeah. I mean, George Soros, it's funny because 5 years ago, a lot of people thought that it was a bit of a conspiracy theory to think that he had a lot of power and he did a lot of nefarious things. But he said himself, like he said in an interview, that, he might say that he was joking. It didn't come across 1% like he was joking. But he said in an interview that his life ambition is to see the end, or to see the destruction of America or American patriotism or something like that. And that's terrifying. Like, why would you want that?
And
especially as it made him so rich.
Why? Like, why do you care? Listen, America's not the good guys. I want to frame this. We're not good guys, man. We're not the good dudes. Now, our people are good people. It's like China. China probably have a lot of good people that live in their country. They probably love their families. They have children. They are probably normal everyday citizens. And, it is what it is. The government is the way that it is. I can't blame the people. But my government has killed millions of people over the last 20 years. Millions. Genocide. Okay? Like, we've done it with the assistance of Europe, the British, French, European Union, NATO, the UN. We went to third world countries and we stripped them of their lives, their property, their rights, because we don't like the way they live.
Yeah, it's not great, is it?
It's horrific that the Western world, like, we have to be objective and stop bullshitting. We're not the good guys. We are not the good guys either. We are not the good guys. What I'm saying, like, the guys that go and fight these wars are good people, and they do what they were told, and they were believe the propaganda, much like myself. But we have to be honest, man. What the hell were we doing in Libya, Lebanon, Iraq? Like, what are we doing? Like, what's going on, dude?
Well, I actually, do you know what? You nearly made the perfect segue at one point, because when we were talking about the fact that the Federal Reserve, that the money printing isn't backed, that the money isn't backed by anything, I nearly said an economist would tell you that it's backed by faith in the U.S. strength, in U.S. strength. That any economist will say, they will say it's not backed by gold, true, but it's backed by faith in U.S. power and its future. And then we could have gone straight into the all of the bases, or why are they there? They're
Okay,
clearly
let's
there
do
for
it. Let's do
strength.
it, man. Well,
I
let's.
can't.
Okay,
We'll do one
I'm
tomorrow or the
sorry.
day after.
I'm sorry. I just really wanted to read the Martyr Mead post. It
Dude, no,
was
it's
like
fine.
on
It's
my mind.
fine. No, it's
All I
all
can say
good.
is like that is a very eloquent point, and that should terrify a lot of people.
Yeah, it
Because
was, yeah.
what's going to happen when the U.S. comes to your country then? And then that's what I'm saying. Like I really don't think like what happens when the guns are turned on you guys? What happens when the U.S. starts saying, well, the U.K. are full of terrorists?
Yeah.
Look at the Patriots in the U.K. No, we got to go
Yeah.
take them out, dude. Look at that. They don't want communism.
I think you got enough problems there by yourself, to be honest.
But that's the thing. Look. Right now, the guns like all like pointing at us, and the U.S. knows that you can't sustain that for very long. Just as a
Mhm.
society, like it will crumble. They're gonna have to find they're looking and scanning for a enemy that is easily
Yeah.
defeated, but they won't let it happen easy, like Vietnam or Vietnam or like Iraq and Afghanistan. Like we could have went in and just bombed the carpet bombed and left. Like we could have just like destroyed their military bases, just
Yeah.
took over, destroyed ISIS, and just left.
Do you remember the guy Aaron Russo? Does it ring a bell?
It does sound. I can't.
Do you remember Zeitgeist?
Oh, addendum, like zeitgeist, like I said, addendum. Yes, I
And
know
that's the
the.
second one. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I know of them. Yes, I
So
showed my buddy that in military when we first came in, and he's like,
yeah,
I don't know why I fucking did this, man. I don't know why I joined
yeah,
this fucking shit.
yeah. It's cool. I mean, there are some bits that are not exactly straightforward, but yeah, there's also a lot of honesty in there
This
that a
is
lot
where
of
it
people don't
started for
know.
me. That's like kind
But
of where it
yeah,
kind of goes back.
yeah, me too. But Aaron Russo, who he was the sort of I don't know how to describe him. He's Italian. I think he's got curly hair. He was probably in his early 50s when he filmed that, and he died like a couple of years later, which is terrifying. And he said in that he'd had a conversation with one of the, I don't know whether it was a Rockefeller or a Rothschild. I think it was a Rockefeller. I'm sure it was a Rockefeller. And he said, now I'm questioning myself. It doesn't matter. It was one of those two, and whoever it was like a early to mid 40s, one of the Rockefellers or Rothschilds, very wealthy guy at the time. Now, take this with a pinch of salt. Aaron was he's quite a dramatic guy, but he said that he'd had a chat with him at a party, and this dude was like, yeah, he said to Aaron Russo, our next target will blow your mind, and he was like, why? And he said, because you'll have never thought of it, but when you hear it, it will make perfect sense. And Aaron Russo's like, well, tell me. And he says, okay, well, we're looking at a target that is basically never defeatable, and a target that we will be able to manipulate and slightly alter so that our wars essentially last forever. And we can just keep slightly altering it and changing it. And now we need new weapons. Now we need different types of bombs. Now we need different types of landing craft. Now we need different types of aircraft. And he said terrorism, because terrorists can be from any country, any age, any gender, and they'll never run out of targets.
Now we are in America. Hello. That's what they're
Yeah.
domestic violent extremists. That's what they're
We
trying to
see
do.
that coming, did we?
I did. My father has been talking about this shit when I was a
I
kid.
didn't.
I mean, my
Yeah.
father was like military, like police. My dad was in the military. He's like, dude, this is like police state. He's like, think about what they can do to you, what they can take from you at a moment's notice. And then if they're wrong, oh my bad. Like that's what they do. Oh, okay, you're free. That's your payment, your freedom that they stripped of you.
Mm.
You know, like this is where we're at. It's like COVID. It's like COVID. It's like we're gonna strip you of all your rights and all your protections and all your freedoms. And my bad. It's just not like Florida's fine, Texas is fine. They no one like not like people didn't just like explode and burst into flames the moment the mask mandates were lifted, like they said they would. And people went on. We have to learn to live with it, man. But we all know. But now they're going to be doing this for a climate crisis and more viruses. This is like the new thing instead of terrorism, because terrorism is such a centralized thing. It's like not in your country. You can't really control populations that way. That is why I believe the real next dictator will be a climate conscious, climate crisis type of person with nationalistic, religious views. Like and like their economic policy is going to be more about, we're going to make us more proud. We're going to make, like, that's why people were freaked out by Trump saying "Make America Great Again," and that's a fair point. That is a statement that would be used by a fascist. That is the perfect statement. Build Back Better sounds like it's comes from a retard. Like,
well, yeah, it does, because it kind of did.
And it's weird because you guys were using it, Italy was using it, France was using it. You're like, what the fuck?
Yeah, I see a lot of people say that it's the. I know Steve Bannon says it's the party of Davos. Maybe, but like maybe it's just a logical. So really quickly, when Boris Johnson won by a landslide in the UK, most of the people, especially like the sort of what do you call them, political, like the people that are political strategists. There we go. A lot of the political strategists think that the reason that he won so convincingly, aside from one of the big reasons was just wokeness taking over the country and people were just sick and tired of it. But the main thing was the whole Brexit deal. Like, regardless of whether people voted it or not, they were just tired of like us being left in limbo. And I know in America, like they spend hundreds of millions, whereas here we have a limit of 100,000. So you don't get adverts on TV here because that costs more than 100,000. And so we don't have a lot of money to spend on it. And so this time they're like, well, what can we do? We'll just come up with a really like solid slogan that's straight to the point. And so the slogan was "Get Brexit Done." And so whereas in America, you'd have hundreds of political adverts all over the country with all different candidates. And obviously you'd have lots for the main two candidates. We don't get that here because there is a fiscal limit on how much you can spend in a general election. And like I said, that limit is 100K, which I think is good. But yeah, it was just straight to the point slogan.
Yeah, but
and
can
immediately
I ask you a question,
after that, yeah, just 1 second. Immediately after that, they came out with Build Back Better. And I think that it was just political strategists were like, oh, we now just have to have one good slogan, like "Make America Great Again."
So you're saying that that Boris Johnson himself can only spend $100,000 on his campaign.
The laws of which I'm sure there's ways of getting around it, but if there are, they're not using it because you never see anything when it's general election time. You just hear who the candidates are.
Well, this is my thing, though. My point is, though, the media and whoever runs the media gets to decide who's framed correctly, who's the good
100%.
guy, who's the bad guy. So, you don't even really need to spend money anymore. It's just power and influence and manipulation.
That's definitely true. I think the reason we haven't suffered too badly with stuff like that yet is, ironically, because of the fact that 3 of our 4 major channels are state funded, and they don't. It's scary, but they don't. But the funny thing is, maybe this is just Britain and the quirky place it is. They're not state players, so it's not like they come out and say, Boris Johnson's a really good dude. It's complete opposite. They're coming out and saying, you shouldn't vote for Boris Johnson. You shouldn't vote for the Conservatives.
Which is a government entity, that's insane that they would even say stuff like about the government. They shouldn't be speaking on the government and what the functions of it. Like, they should be silent. Because if you're a state-funded organization, how can they speak about the government honestly and partially?
Yeah. Well, they seem to just despise the government and anybody that's running that isn't far left.
So this, and I think you before we go, because I know you speak about this, that Boris Johnson's not a real conservative.
No, he's not. He's very like moderate, center left.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. You guys, and the reason why they want to make that $100,000 limit is so nobody with a real money and real different views can actually come out and speak out against anything. Like, they can't run campaigns efficiently. You know what I mean? Because they don't really care. Boris is part of the uniparty. Like, they're like, I'm center left. Like, center left? What are you, insane? Do you see what these people are doing? Do you not hear them? Do you not see them? Do you not see how they've destroyed pubs and businesses? Like, Boris Johnson did that.
Yeah.
Well, it was Boris Johnson who didn't. You know what I mean? Like now there's no way for a nationalist, quote unquote fascist, if they want to call him that, but like someone who's more nationalist, cares more about Britain in a like, and the youth of Britain in a positive light and being like, we're not a racist country. We're not built like, yes, we've done bad things. America's done bad things. Russia, China. That's just the function of nations, but we need to make ours better. And we need to leave our kids alone and leave our families alone and let them get on with their lives. But they don't want to do that, dude.
Yeah, this is true. Well, we shall leave it for today. Gone on a bit longer than we were meant to, and we'll pick up our main subject next time.
I mean, I guess that was the plan anyway, so I guess it worked out.
Yeah,
yeah. We were supposed to talk Monday. Hey, you called me, man. You told me, you're like, hey, you want to go? And I was like, yeah, I guess I'll fucking hop on, man. Yeah, though. Listen, go. I really appreciate Mark and us being able to have these discussions. Even if we disagree, that's fair. I just I can't trust these bastards anymore, and I think Martyr Mead lays out why. Because like, think about if this happens in your country. Like, if this happens in your country, dude, I'm telling you, it's going to change the fabric of your country and how people think. Nobody listens to Joe Biden where I'm from. Some people voted for him because, they fell into the racist trap of Trump. But everyone's literally like, I'm out, dude. Like, I don't give a fuck about these people. I don't want these people running my life anymore.
Yeah.
And
that's very sad, man. Like,
no,
I
it's
completely
beautiful.
understand.
It's beautiful. People are finally realizing who the enemy is. It's not each other.
I get what you're saying. I 100% get what you're saying. But when you've got a machine the size of America, I think that the uni party kicking out some stragglers is just what they want. And I know what you're saying, which is, but then we can all band together and form something beautiful and new. And I wish everyone the best of luck with that. I hope that happens.
Yeah. It's not even about, it's about making it what it was supposed to be. Free, fair, equal. But hey, we can talk about that another time because the global domination. Listen, I guess I'm going to be okay. Like, I'm just going to say that, like, I guess I'm going to be fine in America because I'm an American, because we get to run shit. Yep. So I guess you should be honestly way more worried than I am. And it freaks me out that you're not, but I understand. Like, I will continue with my electricity and my homes, and that's what I'm saying. Like, we all need to wake up, dude. This is a global thing.
Wait, you don't think I'm worried?
No, but that's my point, though, is like, your government does not work for you. If they're working for America, that's way worse. That is way worse than China then, because who cares? Like, they're using the guise of communism and this stuff to put fear into the people. Like, I know I'm just saying, think about it. You should want us to fight the system then. You should want us to step up and the uniparty is real, but you cannot make up for the mass of people that are going to come for them. They can't stop it. It's just like, I guarantee every king, every dictator thought they were never going to be defeated and they were too strong. And then what happened? They fail. So I'm just saying, it may take a coalition of people from all countries. And we're going to have to start hey, dude, you want to move to the U.S.? You're a free-minded person. You got to drop citizenship from the UK and you got to come here and be an American, and let's build something new together. Something like that,
Yeah. I mean, what's crazy actually is they started, just hear me out because I know what you'll say. They started doing that in Russia about 4 years ago. I think just because Russia's so big, and I think that Russia actually, they began to feel very, very vulnerable as China have begun to make way, way better military hardware. Because obviously 20 years ago, Russia was just copying America and China was copying America and Russia. The last 5 years, we've seen two independent stealth fighters. No other country has two stealth fighters. I know we have one stealth fighter and one stealth strike bomber. Anyway, it doesn't matter. The point is, Russia felt quite vulnerable. And around that time was when they began to invite people, similarly to how America did, to kind of, come to Russia. We'll give you, if you pay us, it was a pretty small amount of money. It was like $3,000 or something. I think it was just to kind of test people's seriousness. And they were saying, we'll give you 100 acres of land. You start a farm, da 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 da. That sounded amazing. Not going to lie. I was quite tempted about that because I like space and I like the outdoors. But we can't forget, Russia is everything that we've been saying we hate. Not Russian people, but Russia is like, I know this,
But
I don't even
how
think
much
it's
is
debatable, man. This is not debatable.
yeah?
Russia is an oligarchy run by about 50 incredibly rich people. If you're not one of them, you can piss off. That is exactly how they are.
And there's no difference in the UK or America.
No.
That's the trick that we've been like we're better or we are not like as evil or bad or we're just as bad. Our rich people run our systems and the banks, like it's all the same. We are thinking that it's not, but it is.
I don't think it's quite the same, but it's very similar. But you're happy to think it's the same. That's cool.
Yeah, fair enough. All right. But listen, great talk, Mark, everybody. I hope you guys like, share, subscribe, comment. Drop us how you feel about shit. Do you think things are going to get better? Do you think things are going to get worse? Do you think freedom stands for socialism, communism, liberty, whatever it is? We don't care. Capitalism. We are open to all ideas. But if you come on this podcast, you want to have an interview, you want to have a discussion, don't think I will bring the fire. I spit hot fire. My name's Dylan. I spit hot fire. But anyway, I hope you guys have a good one. We'll be talking to you guys soon.
Winston stopped writing, partly because he was suffering from cramp. He did not know what had made him pour out this stream of rubbish